destra! Numerarsi! Fila di sinistra! Numerarsi! Numeri pari! Indossare! Numeri dispari! Aiutare!
Wanna join the mob, just come along with me. Here's some chalky biscuits and a lovely cup of tea. Forget the RAF, the Royal Marines or the Navy. We think you're big and tough to be in the airborne infantry. Got off the bus in Aldershot in 1964. They marched us on a parade ground where me father stood before. Old Drummy Williams, he drilled the squad, it seemed like half a day. I've never seen such a motley crew, and then I heard him say, Green on, we're airborne, we know we are the best. But when you put that berry on, you know you passed the test. We'll go anywhere, we'll fight anyone, we're always in the mud. They always send the paras in, 'cause we don't give a toss. They handed me a rifle and a crap bat for me head, a uniform that didn't fit and plywood for me bed. They woke us up at the break of dawn and marched us round a square. I wish that I was home in bed or anywhere else but there. I tapped across the Brecons with a burden on me back. They marched us up to Penny Fan and then they marched us back. You should have joined the Remy, that's what old Drummy said. You still got 25 miles to go before you go to bed. Green on, we're airborne, we know we are the best. But when you put that berry on, you know you passed the test. We'll go anywhere, we'll fight anyone, we're always in the mud. They always send the paras in, 'cause we don't give a monkeys. It started out in Ringway 60 years ago. All those boys have volunteered for jumping through.
Blowing up clouds of desert dust, they took off from North Africa and headed out over the blue ocean. Ahead was their first combat jump. They were to drop into Sicily behind enemy lines, ahead of an Allied invasion that was coming in by sea.
capo a poche ore, l'impeto di quei soldati, pure quasi privi di armi automatiche, senza copertura d'artiglieria e con pochi obsoleti carri armati, riuscì a far arretrare gli statunitensi fino all'abitato di Gela, travolgendo le loro linee difensive. Vista la situazione disperata, Patton ordina la ripresa del fuoco di artiglieria navale, anche a costo di sparare sui propri uomini. I grossi calibri navali da 152 mm fanno letteralmente scendere delle carni dei soldati italiani, che sono costretti ad arrestare l'avanzata. Le compagnie del terzo e del 34esimo vengono falcidiate. Della 10ª restano solo una trentina di uomini dei quasi 200 iniziali. Sono le 12:30. L'aviazione dell'asse fa una sortita contro alcune navi alleate nel Golfo di Noto e mitraglia le truppe americane sulla spiaggia. Ma un totale di circa 12.000 soldati, in questi 2 giorni di combattimento, la divisione Livorno ebbe 214 ufficiali e 7.000 uomini di truppa morti, feriti, dispersi o fatti prigionieri. Nonostante avesse perso completamente la sua capacità offensiva, l'unità continuò a combattere in ripiegamento verso Messina, ostacolando metro dopo metro l'avanzata nemica.
This outfit has enough Apache blood in its collective veins to justify their haircut.
Stand up. Hook up.
Ready with the red. Show the red.
Stand to door.
Ready with the green. Show the green.
Go.
The unit landed squarely on the German 91st Infantry Division and other enemy troops.
These enemy units were on maneuvers and were already occupying their assigned defensive positions. Surprise was gained only by the leading parachute unit, and subsequent serials found themselves under practically continuous ground and anti-aircraft fire while crossing the peninsula and upon landing. 821 airplane loads, 13,000 paratroops were delivered into DZs in less than 2 hours.
Adapted Shermans, known as Rhino tanks, with welded tusk-like steel prongs, would be used to either gouge out an opening in a hedgerow bank at an unexpected locale. Was costly and terrifying for an attacker who had no idea if a position was occupied until gunfire erupted from the hedgerows. And with as many as 20 such fields to every single mile, it was also utterly exhausting. It was then at 8:30 p.m. on the 13th of July that orders came for the 35th to move up to the front lines in preparation for an attack that was scheduled to commence at 5:15 in 2 days' time.
280 men from the battalion in 3 groups would parachute directly onto Tito's headquarters, while a simultaneous glider assault by 6 groups would target the British, US and Soviet military missions with Tito and knock out his radio station, among other targets. The operation, codenamed Ressersprung, or Knight's Move, commenced on the 25th of May 1944. At 06:35 hours, 5 Luftwaffe squadrons commenced ground attacks on the Drvar area, including attacks by Junkers Ju-87 Stuka dive bombers. The airborne phase began at 0700. During the initial parachute assault, large numbers of SS were injured as they came down among rocks and on hillsides, while the 36 gliders also had problems with the terrain, suffering bad casualties from crashes. They were also widely separated. One entire glider full of men were killed by members of Tito's escort battalion. The Tito escort battalion fought back vigorously. SS assault leader Reibke would later be wounded by grenade fragments during the fighting. Reibke's unit was to fight its way into Tito's headquarters cave, but Tito wasn't there. He and his 20 staff escaped on foot as the German assault on the cave commenced. A second SS parachute drop was made about midday, but the SS were caught by partisan fire as they landed and took heavy casualties. What then followed was a siege. The surviving SS was surrounded by strong partisan forces and called in repeated Stuka attacks to help defend their positions. They also received airdrops of ammunition and other supplies from Junkers Ju-52 transports. The next day, on the 26th of May, elements of the 7th SS Volunteer Mountain Division Prinz Eugen fought through to the SS paratroopers, pushing the partisans back. However, the 500th Battalion remained in combat until June, when it was withdrawn for rest and reorganization. SS casualties were officially 277 men, with 61 killed, though many much higher casualty figures have been published down the years. The partisans suffered, according to their own figures, 399 killed, 479 wounded, and 85 missing. Tito was successfully evacuated by the British, and communist partisan activities soon returned to normal. The SS raid was a complete failure, and the 500th SS Parachute Battalion did not attempt any more such operations before war's end.
Le débarquement, 9000 parachutistes sautent dans l'arrière-pays, entre le massif des morts et celui de l'Estorel. L'opération Dragoon est lancée. À peine 4 jours plus tard, les troupes allemandes reçoivent l'ordre de se replier. Le débarquement est un succès.
C'est une réussite qui n'était pas prévue. Qui n'était pas prévue, qui s'explique par divers.
14 juillet 1944, jour de la fête nationale sur le plateau du Vercors. 4000 résistants ont réussi à bloquer les routes d'accès à ce massif qui surplombe la vallée du Rhône. Il est convaincu que De Gaulle, depuis Alger, tient ses promesses.
Après leurs évolutions, les appareils, au nombre de 82, se dirigèrent vers Vassieux, où ils parachutèrent la quantité énorme de 1500 tubes de matériel. Nous étions très heureusement surpris de voir qu'à Alger, on ne nous oubliait pas.
Durant 2 heures, ces appareils parachutent sur le Vercors des grenades, des fusils mitrailleurs, des explosifs, du chocolat et des cigarettes américaines. De quoi soutenir le moral des résistants, mais pas de quoi affronter les Allemands, riposte ennemie. Tout juste une semaine plus tard, 22 planeurs à croix noire se posent sur Vassieux. Quelques 200 soldats allemands en débarquent.
A Filotrano, caposaldo tedesco, avviene il primo scontro. Con un assalto allo scoperto dei reparti della Nembo, Filotrano viene in 2 giorni più volte conquistata e perduta con sanguinosi corpo a corpo. I tedeschi non fanno prigionieri, considerano i soldati italiani dei fuorilegge. La Nembo perde 300 uomini, ma salva 10.000 persone.
An air train wings toward the Eindhoven-Nijmegen area of Holland with supplies and reinforcements following initial landings of the 1st Allied Airborne Army. Dropping supplies just south of Nijmegen. Here, airborne infantrymen are engaged in securing important bridges and flanking the northern anchor of the Siegfried Line. During the entire Netherlands airborne operation, American planes and gliders alone carried nearly 6 million pounds of supplies and equipment. The following scenes were made with a camera strapped to the chest of a parachutist. A heavy concentration of anti-aircraft fire brings further losses in Allied planes, indicating a vigorous attempt on the part of the enemy to stem an Allied drive north from Nijmegen. Glider planes bring in reinforcements to help broaden the Eindhoven-Nijmegen corridor and attempt to establish contact with encircled elements of the British 1st Airborne Division on the north bank of the Lech River. Operating with British forces during the whole period of the airborne invasion were nearly 6,000 American planes and gliders. Of this number, less than 3% were lost, despite fierce enemy opposition.
La città italiana che preferisco? Firenze, perché lì gli italiani ci hanno accolto sparandoci addosso. Così ebbe a dire a proposito dei combattimenti nella città di Firenze il generale inglese Harold Alexander. Durante la battaglia di Firenze, quando tutto sembra finito, con le truppe tedesche e i reparti della Repubblica Sociale in ritirata verso nord per raggiungere la linea gotica, emerge un nuovo fenomeno, che ritroveremo poi anche in altre città del nord Italia, Torino in particolare, ma che a Firenze trova la sua massima espressione. Sono i cosiddetti franchi tiratori. Si tratta di qualche centinaio di fiorentini di ambo i sessi e di tutte le età che appena si affacciano in città i reparti alleati e le formazioni partigiane cominciano a sparare dalle finestre, dai tetti, dagli angoli delle strade. Non hanno alcuna speranza di sopravvivenza. Una volta presi saranno fucilati.
The airborne operation, codenamed Stösser, or Ork in English, would be the last full-scale German parachute drop of the war. The Germans faced some serious problems in trying to meet the operational order so late in the war. The final force consisted of 870 Fallschirmjäger. Most were new recruits with just the requisite training jumps under their belts to qualify for their parachute badge, plus a few seasoned Crete and North Africa veterans. With supply canisters on board, The 67 Junkers 52s took off in a snowstorm, battling strong winds and low clouds. Von der Heide decided wisely to hide in the woods and only attack and occupy the crossroads when it was clear that the 12th SS was close by. His men had a few skirmishes with US patrols, and his presence actually set off a panic in the American headquarters, which became convinced that a huge force of Fallschirmjägern, perhaps an entire division, was behind their lines. At least 6,000 US troops that were sorely needed at the front spent days searching for von der Heide's men. Some of the dead paratroopers were not found until the 1970s due to the remoteness of the forest. For 3 miserable days, von der Heide held his small battle group ready to seize the crossroads, but by the 20th, with limited water and food and no medical care for his injured and wounded, and with no sign of the panzers, von der Heide decided that the mission was over. He divided his command into 3 roughly 100-man groups and ordered them to walk back to German lines. Von der Heide never knew that the 12th SS Panzer Division had been unable to defeat US forces holding the critical Elsenborn Ridge. In fact, the only sector of the US front line attacked by the Germans that they failed to penetrate. Von der Heide, wounded, exhausted and frostbitten, surrendered to US forces in Monschau, where locals had been hiding him. In the end, Operation Stürzer was a tragic waste of men and aircraft that achieved little except to direct some US forces in hunting them down. Never again would the Fallschirmjäger fight in their traditional role. They would continue to act as elite ground troops until the end of the war. The Luftwaffe was no longer capable of supplying the large number of aircraft needed to drop big groups of paratroopers. In the end, only about a third of the men who had been with von der Heide made it back to German lines. For the Green Devils, it had truly been a drop too far.